Hey writers, today is Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. We are in the process of wrapping up the second month of the year, and you may be wondering why my newsletter is a little late. Well, I have a very good reason for that, which I'm going to tell you in just a moment. So, in this week's newsletter, I explore reaping what you sow. So, at the beginning of the month of February, I had some intentions that I set for myself, I had some things that I did, and I talk about what that was like for me as a way of helping you think about reaping what you sow and using this exercise to think about what you want to plant or what seeds you want to plant in the month of March, because we're getting ready to have spring, and so we want to think about what do we want to bloom in our lives. So one of the things that I did in the month of February is I intentionally set aside time to write after a very busy month. I also set an intention to keep my heart open even when it felt really hard or overwhelming, or I had to deal with uncomfortable emotions like grief. And I allowed things to be. And one of the things that I allowed to be was I had this writing project that spoke to me. It said, "You must write this." And I listened and I worked on it. And this piece is now a tiny love story for the New York Times. And I wanted to be sure to have the link so that I could share it with you. And that is the reason why my newsletter is late. Also, in this edition of my newsletter, Athena Dixon is this week's guest for the Writing and Resilience podcast. And we had a fantastic conversation about how we define success, the vessels of our stories, what loneliness is, how it impacts us, and some very interesting and weird stories that she came across as she was working on her book. She had so much wisdom and so many incredible things to share. You definitely want to listen to this episode, and you can see the highlights in the newsletter. Also, I have another webinar coming up on April the 3rd, 2024, and that is Craft Your Memoir Beat Sheet. This is a webinar where I'm going to teach you a very powerful tool you can use to think through your narrative arc and get really clear on the story that you're trying to tell. So if you have a bunch of pages and you're like, oh my gosh, where do I start? Or how do I narrow this down? This can be a great way to do that. The registration link is in the newsletter. Also, if you are just watching this video on YouTube, you can find the links for all of the things that I'm sharing in the description for this video. So that is it for this week. There are a bunch of articles and links to resources that you can read, because this is when I do my monthly reading roundup. And so I hope you enjoy them. I also hope that you support the Red Hot writers in our community who have published this month. And I also want to thank you for showing up to this newsletter community, for being a member, for sharing all of your kind and generous thoughts and emails with me, and for showing up to your writing and to your life. You are incredible, and I can't wait to see what you reap in the month of March.